The council chamber floated in the dark between stars. 7 species had gathered here, representatives of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had survived for millions of years by being careful, by being smart, by knowing when to hide and when to run. Today, they faced a problem that none of their ancient wisdom could solve. The Devourers were coming. Zithka of the Molani spoke first. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he addressed the chamber. We have 3 cycles before they reach the core worlds. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons barely slow them down. Every world they take makes them stronger. The others shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew this already. The Devourers had appeared at the galaxy's edge 2 standard years ago. At first, they seemed like raiders. Then the older species recognized what they truly were. The Devourers were something the galaxy had not seen in 10 million years. A consuming swarm. A species that grew by eating everything in its path. We must evacuate, said Prim, the crystalline delegate from Thresh. Her voice chimed like breaking glass. We have ships. We have time to save some populations. And go where? Zivka's tail lashed. They will follow. They always follow. They will hunt us across the stars until nothing remains. The chamber fell silent. This was the truth they all knew, but did not want to speak. The old species had survived so long because they were careful. But careful species do not know how to fight an enemy like this. They knew how to avoid war, how to negotiate, how to hide. They did not know how to win against an enemy that could not be reasoned with. There is one option we have not discussed, said a quiet voice. All eyes turned to Velshaw, the Kirenti observer. The Kirenti were younger than most species here, only 2 million years old. They were known for studying other species obsessively, cataloging every race in the galaxy. Speak, commanded Zithka. There is a species on the inner rim, Velshaw said slowly. They are very young. Primitive by our standards. They only reached their nearest star a few hundred years ago. They are violent, unstable. They fight each other constantly. But they have something we do not. What could primitives possibly offer? Prim's voice held contempt. They know how to win impossible wars. The chamber erupted in a dozen different sounds. Clicks, hisses, chimes of disbelief. You cannot be serious, Zithka said. You speak of the humans. I do. They are barely spacefaring. They have no proper fleet. Their technology is crude. Their world is divided into warring factions. What use are they? Velshaw projected an image into the center of the chamber. It showed a blue and green world, the 3rd planet from a yellow star. I have studied them for 70 cycles. They are strange in ways we do not understand. Where we avoid conflict, they run toward it. Where we calculate and withdraw, they attack without thinking. They are reckless and wild and dangerous to themselves and others. Then why would we involve them? Asked another delegate. Because their history is nothing but impossible victories. They fight when they should flee. They attack when they should hide. Somehow, they win. Not always, but often enough. They have a word in their languages. Many words, actually. Stubbornness, spite, refusal to surrender. They do not know when they are beaten, so they keep fighting until they are not beaten anymore. Zivka leaned forward. You want us to give weapons to primitives? No, I want us to ask them for help. To share what we know. To see what they can do that we cannot. This is madness, Prim chimed. They could turn on us. They could take our technology and become a threat themselves. We face extinction in 3 cycles, Velshaw said quietly. The Devourers will not stop. Our fleets will not hold. We can die proud and alone, or we can take a chance on the one species in this galaxy that does not know how to give up. The chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, Zithka spoke. Show us more of these humans. Show us why you believe they are different. Velshaw brought up more images. Humans climbing impossible mountains. Humans diving into deep oceans. Humans launching themselves into space in primitive rockets that barely worked. Humans fighting wars against impossible odds. Sometimes they lost. Often they lost. But they kept trying. They never seemed to learn that some things could not be done. They have a saying, Velshaw said. Hold my beer. Watch this. They say it before doing something incredibly stupid and dangerous. It is their way of laughing at death. Was their way of laughing at death. They laugh at death, Zithkar repeated slowly. They laugh at everything. They make jokes in disasters. They name their most dangerous missions after gods and heroes. They crashed a ship on their moon and called it a successful failure. When their space station had a catastrophic problem, they fixed it with spare parts and tape. When they cannot solve a problem with intelligence, they solve it with persistence. Or explosives. Often explosives, another long silence. Very well, Zivka said. Send an envoy to Earth, but choose carefully. These humans are dangerous, even to approach. We must make them understand what is at stake. We must make them want to help. Oh, that will not be difficult, Velshaw said. Tell them the enemy is coming to their world. Tell them the fight is impossible. Tell them no sane species would face this threat. They will volunteer immediately. Why would they do that? Velshaw's translator struggled to convey what might have been a laugh. Because humans do not like being told what they cannot do. And because they absolutely hate bullies. The Kirenti ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday. This caused immediate chaos in every space agency and military headquarters on the planet. Humanity had been looking for aliens for centuries. Now the aliens had found them first. The message that followed was simple and translated into every human language simultaneously. We mean no harm. We need help. May we speak? 6 hours later, delegates from Earth's major nations gathered in Geneva. The meeting room had been chosen quickly. Nobody had a protocol for first contact. They were making it up as they went. Velshaw materialized as a hologram at the head of the table. The Kirenti looked like a cross between a mantis and a bird, with feathers that shifted colors based on mood. Right now, they were showing deep blue, which the translator helpfully noted meant stress or worry. Thank you for meeting with us, Velshaw said. The translation was perfect, each person hearing it in their own language. I will be direct because time is precious. The galaxy is dying. An enemy is consuming every world in its path. In 3 of your months, they will reach the core civilizations. In 3 of your years, they will reach Earth. The room erupted. Questions flew in a dozen languages. Velshaw waited patiently for silence. Admiral Chun of the Pacific Coalition spoke first. Why come to us? You clearly have better technology. What can we possibly do? Our technology has not saved us, Velshaw said. We are old species. We are wise. We calculate every risk. We know that we cannot defeat the Devourers. So we will die. And you think we can defeat them? President Okafor asked. No, I think you will try when trying makes no sense. I think you will find ways we cannot imagine. I think you are foolish enough to attack when we would retreat. And I think that foolishness might be what saves us all. Secretary Volkov leaned forward. You want us to fight your war. I want us to fight together. We have knowledge, technology, resources. You have something we lost millions of years ago. You have the ability to look at certain death and say, not today. Tell us about this enemy. General Washington said. Vel-Shaw shared images. The Devourers were not beautiful. They looked like insects the size of buildings, with ships grown from organic matter. They consumed planets by landing in massive numbers, stripping everything down to bedrock, then moving to the next world. They adapted quickly. Weapons that worked once rarely worked twice. They were smart enough to learn, but too numerous to stop. The old species have thrown everything at them, Velshaw explained. Kinetic weapons, energy weapons, biological weapons, nuclear fire. Nothing stops them. They absorb damage, adapt, and continue. We estimate their numbers at over 1 trillion individuals spread across 1,000 ships. Each ship carries millions of them. The silence in the room was heavy. So what's the plan? Admiral Chun finally asked. Plan? Valshaw's feathers shifted to confused yellow. There is no plan. That is why I came to you. We are hoping you have ideas we have not considered. You came all the way to Earth without a plan? President Okafor sounded incredulous. We have calculations. Simulations. They all end the same way. We need something that does not make sense. Something unpredictable. Something... Velshaw searched for the word. Stupid enough to work. At this, several humans smiled. It was not a nice smile. Okay, General Washington said. Let's see what you've tried so far. Then let's talk about what you haven't tried. Over the next 12 hours, Velshaw shared everything. Centuries of research. Detailed scans of Devour biology and technology. Battle reports from 200 engagements. Every failed strategy the old species had attempted. The humans listened. They asked questions. Strange questions that Velshaw had not expected. Not about the Devourer's strengths, but about their weaknesses. Not about how to retreat, but about how to attack. Not about survival, but about victory. They consume everything? Dr. Yuki asked. She was a biologist, pulled into the meeting for her expertise. Everything organic. They break it down and incorporate it into their mass. Even poisons? Even things that would harm them? They are very adaptable. Toxins rarely work twice. What about diseases? Viruses? Prions? Velshaw hesitated. We have not considered biological warfare extensively. It seems cruel. The humans exchanged glances. Cruel, Admiral Chun repeated slowly. They're eating entire planets, and you're worried about being cruel. We are civilized species, Velshaw said quietly. Then maybe that's your problem, Secretary Volkov said. You've been civilized so long you forgot how to be savage. You sound like you want to fight them, Velshaw said. Of course we want to fight them, General Washington said. They're coming to eat our planet. What else would we do? Most species would run, hide, seek survival elsewhere. Where would we go? President Okafor asked. This is our home. These are our families. Our planet. Nobody eats Earth without a fight. Velshaw's feathers shifted to orange. Surprise. You have not even seen them in battle. You do not know their full strength. You speak of fighting without fear. Oh, we're terrified, Dr. Yuki said. But that's normal for us. We do our best work when we're scared and angry. This does not make sense. Good, Admiral Chun said with a sharp smile. If it doesn't make sense to you, it won't make sense to them either. That's our advantage. Now, let's talk about how to kill 1 trillion bugs. Over the following days, something remarkable happened. Earth unified in a way it never had before. The threat was external. The enemy was clear. For once, every nation agreed on something. They would fight. Velshaw watched in amazement as humanity mobilized. Factories retooled. Scientists collaborated across borders. Military forces coordinated. It was chaotic and loud and inefficient by Kurenti standards. But it was fast. Incredibly fast. You are building weapons, Velshaw observed as factories began producing new designs. We're building everything, President Okafor corrected. Weapons, ships, bombs, biological agents, and a few surprises. You said they adapt to weapons they've seen before, right? Yes. Then we'll hit them with weapons they've never imagined. Human weapons. We've spent 10,000 years figuring out how to kill each other. Time to put that expertise to good use. Velshaw felt something unfamiliar. It might have been hope. These strange, violent, barely spacefaring primitives were not acting like any species that Karenti had ever studied. They were not calculating odds or planning retreats. They were planning an attack. I must ask, Velshaw said. Why are you doing this? You could hide. Your planet is remote. The Devourers might not find you for many years. And let them eat the galaxy? General Washington shook his head. Not happening. Besides, you came here asking for help. Where we come from, when someone asks for help against a bully, you don't hide. You help, even if it means your death? Especially then, Admiral Chun said. That's when it matters most. Velshaw's feathers cycled through several colors before settling on a deep purple. Respect mixed with confusion. You are all insane, Velshaw said. Probably, President Okafor agreed. But you're insane now. Let's go save the galaxy. The combined fleet gathered at Threshold Station, the last major outpost before Devour Space. The old species had contributed their remaining warships. 200 vessels representing 7 civilizations. They were beautiful ships, elegant and efficient, designed by species that have perfected the art of space travel over millions of years. Then the human fleet arrived. What are those? Zivka asked, staring at the scans. The human ships looked like someone had welded boxes together and strapped engines to them. They were ugly, asymmetrical, and appeared to barely hold together. But there were hundreds of them. And they were big. Those are all warships, Admiral Chun said over the comm. We call them bricks. Because they're tough, cheap, and we can throw a lot of them at the enemy. They look unstable, Prim chimed nervously. They are unstable, Chun agreed cheerfully. But they work, mostly. The ones that don't work we use as decoys. Velshaw had spent the last 2 months with the humans. Nothing surprised them anymore. Admiral Chun, please share the battle plan with the Council. What followed made the old species question their decision to involve humanity. The human plan was not elegant. It was not efficient. It violated dozens of accepted principles of space warfare. It was aggressive, wasteful, and relied heavily on things going wrong in just the right way. You want to charge directly at their main fleet, Zithka said slowly. All of you. At once. That's Phase 1, General Washington confirmed. Phase 1 usually involves reconnaissance, probing attacks, testing defenses. We already know their defenses. You gave us 200 battle reports. We don't need to test anything. We need to hit them so hard they don't have time to adapt. And if you fail, then Phase 2 kicks in. And if that fails, Phase 3. We have 17 phases total. They get progressively more stupid and dangerous. Why would you plan for failure? Asked the Morlani captain. Because we will fail, Admiral Chun said. We're going to lose ships. Lots of them. People are going to die. That's war. But every failure teaches us something. Every loss makes the next attack smarter. We're not trying to win the first battle. We're trying to win the last one. The old species were horrified. They had spent millions of years trying to minimize casualties, to fight clean wars with clear objectives. The humans spoke of death like it was expected, like it was part of the plan. I cannot ask my people to follow this strategy, Zithka said. Then don't, Admiral Chun said simply. Keep your ships in reserve. Protect the core worlds. We'll handle the front line. You are 200 ships against 1,000. Yeah, it's not great odds. But we fought worse. There was this battle in our history, Thermopylae. 300 soldiers against 1,000,000. They lost, but they made the enemy pay for every inch. They inspired others to fight. Sometimes losing the right way is better than not fighting at all. Velshaw spoke up. The humans are not asking you to sacrifice your people, Zithka. They are offering to sacrifice theirs. Let them try. The Morlani commander's tail twitched. Pride warred with practicality. Finally, he nodded. Very well. But we will not abandon you to fight alone. My ships will support from a distance. If your plan succeeds, we will press the advantage. Fair enough, Chun said. Now let's talk about the fun stuff. Dr. Yuki, you want to explain the biological package? The scientist appeared on screen, looking tired but excited. We've created several custom viruses and prion packages based on Devour biology. They're designed to attack their neural systems and disrupt their ability to coordinate. The Devourers have never encountered Earth diseases. Their biology is advanced, but it's not ready for things like modified Ebola or weaponized prions. You are bringing diseases to a war? Prim sounded shocked. We're bringing every weapon we have, Dr. Yuki said. Diseases, nukes, kinetics, experimental energy weapons the Curenti helped us build. Chemical agents, cyber weapons, psychological warfare. And a few things we're not going to mention because they're either illegal or untested. Probably both. There are laws of war, Prim protested. Those laws were written for wars between civilized species, General Washington said. The Devourers don't follow rules. They don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. So we're going to fight the way they fight. Total war. Except we're going to be creative about it. The meeting continued for hours. The humans presented weapon after weapon, strategy after strategy. Some made sense to the old species. Many did not. There were things called suicide drones and kamikaze missiles. There were ships designed to explode when damaged. There were weapons that spread like diseases through enemy formations. There were traps and tricks and deceptions. You fight like prey animals, one delegate observed. We are prey animals, Admiral Chun said. Humans evolved running from predators. We're not the strongest or fastest or toughest. We're the ones who survived by being smart and mean and refusing to die. We learned to hunt the hunters. Now, we're going to teach the Devourers why that's a bad idea. 3 days later, the battle began. The human fleet jumped directly into Devourer space. Ignoring all tactical conventions about safe jump distances and scout ships, they appeared in the middle of the enemy formation and immediately opened fire. The Devourers responded exactly as expected. They swarmed toward the human ships, seeking to overwhelm them with numbers. That was when Phase 1 really started. The human ships began to retreat. But slowly, clumsily, they leaked atmosphere and vented fuel. They looked damaged. The Devourers pursued eagerly, sensing easy prey. They flew directly into the minefield. Thousands of mines, each containing a nuclear warhead, detonated simultaneously. The Devourers lost millions of individuals in seconds. Ships crumpled. Formations broke apart. The enemy reeled. All ships, advance, Admiral Chun ordered. Hit them while they're confused. The human fleet turned and charged back into the chaos. They fired everything. Missiles, railguns, lasers, particle beams, and stranger weapons. Ships that were damaged turned into bombs, ramming enemy vessels. Drones that ran out of ammunition rammed targets at relativistic speeds. Thought it was not pretty. It was not elegant. But it was effective. The Devourers tried to adapt. They changed formations. They deployed countermeasures. They brought in reinforcements. Then Phase 2 began. Transport ships that had been hiding behind the fleet suddenly accelerated forward. They did not fire weapons. Instead, they released clouds of particles into the battle space. The Devourers ignored them at first, focusing on the warships. That was a mistake. The particles were Dr. Yuki's creation. Prions and viruses engineered to survive in space, to attach to devour biology, to spread like wildfire through their organic ships. Within hours, Devour vessels began to malfunction. Their coordination broke down. Ships crashed into each other. Some began attacking their own forces. "They're dying," Velsha said, watching from Threshold Station. "You are actually killing them." "We're making them pay," General Washington corrected. "Now comes the hard part. They're going to adapt. They're going to get angry. And they're going to bring everything they have. That's when we find out if humanity is as stubborn as we think we are." The Devourers did adapt. They burned out infected sections of their ships. They changed their biology to resist the diseases. They brought in fresh forces from deeper in their territory. Within a week, the battle had stabilized into a brutal stalemate. The humans lost ship after ship. The casualty counts climbed. But they did not retreat. They did not surrender. Every time the Devourers pushed forward, the humans found a new way to push back. Tactics that should not work somehow succeeded. Weapons that should have failed found weak points. When conventional warfare failed, the humans resorted to unconventional warfare. When that failed, they made things up on the spot. "This is madness," Zithka said, watching the battle reports. "This is humanity," Velshaw replied. "They do not know when to quit." And slowly and possibly, the tide began to turn. The war lasted 6 months. 6 months of brutal, grinding combat that spread across a dozen star systems. The humans fought with everything they had, and when they ran out of weapons, they improvised new ones. When they ran out of ships, they built more. When they ran out of ideas, they tried things that had never been attempted before. The old species watched in awe and horror. The humans lost hundreds of ships, tens of thousands of lives. Any other species would have withdrawn, would have declared the cost too high, would have calculated that survival meant retreat. Humans calculated differently. "They are singing," Velshaw reported to the council in the 3rd month of fighting. "On their ships, between battles, they are singing songs." Songs? Zivka could not understand. Their people are dying, and they sing? Songs about home. About their fallen friends. About how they will win or die trying. They sing to keep their spirits up. They sing to remember why they fight. It is strange. It is illogical. But it keeps them fighting when logic says they should stop. The turning point came during the Battle of the Dead Zone, a region of space the Devourers had stripped of all matter. The human fleet was trapped, surrounded by enemy forces 5 times their size. Every simulation said they would be destroyed within hours. Admiral Chun had other ideas. "All ships, activate Project Sunrise," she commanded. The old species monitoring the battle did not know what that meant. Neither did the Devourers. They were about to find out. Every human ship suddenly vented all remaining fuel and atmosphere into space. They appeared to be dying, suffering catastrophic system failures. The Devourers moved in for the kill, sensing final victory. Then the humans detonated every fusion reactor simultaneously. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. It was not nuclear fire or antimatter. It was something worse. The humans had overloaded their reactors in a specific way, creating a cascade reaction that generated temperatures found only in the hearts of stars. Everything within 1,000 kilometers simply ceased to exist, vaporized, erased. The Devourers lost half their fleet in that moment. The old species were silent. The humans had sacrificed their entire forward fleet. 30,000 people. Gone in an instant, but they had not died blindly. Escape pods had been launched minutes before, hidden in the center chaos of the battle. Rescue ships waited at the edge of the system. Most of the human crews survived. They planned to destroy their own ships, Prim said quietly. From the beginning, they planned this. They planned to make it look like an accident, General Washington confirmed over the comm. The Devourers needed to think we were beaten, that we had lost containment of our reactors. They needed to cluster close for the kill, and they did exactly what we hoped. You used your people as bait, Zithka said. We used ourselves as bait, Washington corrected. Every person on those ships volunteered. They knew the plan. They knew the risks. And they did it anyway because it was the best chance to hurt the enemy. The Devourers reeled from the loss. Their coordination broke down. Their advance stopped. For the first time since they had appeared in the galaxy, they hesitated. That was when the old species finally joined the battle. Led by Zithka himself, the combined fleet of 7 civilizations attacked. They had learned from watching the humans. They used tactics that made no sense by traditional standards. They took risks. They attacked instead of defended. They fought like the humans had taught them to fight, like prey animals that had learned to bite back. The war turned into a rout. The Devourers began to retreat, pulling back toward their home systems. But the humans did not let them go. They pursued. They harried. They made the enemy pay for every light year. We should let them run, Zithka suggested during a strategy meeting. We have won. Why continue killing? Because if we let them go, they'll come back, Admiral Chun said. Stronger, smarter, ready for us. No, we finish this now. We make sure they never threaten anyone again. You speak of genocide, Prim said quietly. I speak of survival, Chun replied. The Devourers don't negotiate. They don't coexist. They consume. If we show mercy, we doom the next species they encounter. I'm not willing to accept that. It was a dark choice, but it was the human choice. They had not come this far, sacrificed this much, to leave the job unfinished. The final battle took place in the Devourers' home system. It was a brief, brutal affair. The humans used their most terrible weapons, bioweapons that turned the Devourers' own biology against them, nanomachines that disassembled their organic ships. And finally, when the enemy was broken, relativistic kill vehicles that sterilized their breeding worlds. When it was over, the Devourers were extinct. The threat was ended. The galaxy was safe. The cost had been terrible. The humans had lost half their fleet. The old species had lost a quarter of theirs. Entire worlds had been consumed before the Devourers were stopped. The scars would last for generations, but they had won. Back at Threshold Station, the species gathered to assess what had happened. The humans looked tired. Many were injured. All were grieving their dead. But they stood straight and proud. We wish to thank you, Zithka said formally. Without your help, we would have perished. You saved us when we could not save ourselves. You saved yourselves, Admiral Chun said. You fought beside us. You learned. You adapted. That's all anyone can do. We learned from you, Velsha said. You showed us that wisdom is not always about avoiding danger. Sometimes it is about facing danger with courage. You showed us something too, General Washington added. You showed us we're not alone in the universe, that there are other species worth protecting, worth fighting for. That's a gift we won't forget. What will you do now? Prim asked. Will you return to Earth? Eventually, Chun said. But first, we have some cleaning up to do. Worlds to rebuild. Refugees to help. The galaxy is a mess, and we help make it that way. Seems only right we help clean it up. You would stay? Help us rebuild? Zithka's tail lifted in surprise. That's what you do after a war, Washington said. You help put things back together. You make sure the piece is worth the cost of fighting for it. Over the following years, humans spread throughout the galaxy. They brought their strange energy and their stranger ideas. They helped rebuild worlds. They shared technology. They made alliances. They argued and fought and reconciled. They remained, in many ways, the chaotic, violent, unpredictable species they had always been. But they also became something more. They became the species that taught the old races to fight. The species that proved courage could triumph over calculation. The species that looked at impossible odds and said, "Hold my beer." The galaxy changed with the minute. It became louder, more dangerous, more vibrant, more alive. Vel-Shaw, now an elder of the Kirenti, watched human ships coming and going from Threshold Station. It had been rebuilt into a massive hub, half old species elegance and half human practicality. It worked, somehow, despite being a design nightmare. Do you regret bringing them into galactic affairs? A young Kirenti asked. Vel-Shaw's feathers shifted through several colors before settling on warm gold. Every day, I wonder if we made the right choice. Humans are loud. They are messy. They break things. They argue about everything. They have turned the galaxy upside down. Then you do regret it. I did not say that. Vel-Shaw watched a human ship perform an entirely unnecessary barrel roll before docking. Before the humans, we were dying. We were ancient and wise and so very tired. We had forgotten how to live, how to fight, how to hope. The humans reminded us. They showed us that being old does not mean being finished. That wisdom without courage is just fear by another name. So we needed them. We needed each other, Vel-Shaw corrected. We gave them knowledge and technology. They gave us something more precious. They gave us a future worth living in. A future where we do not simply survive, but thrive. Where we face challenges instead of hiding from them. Where we reach for the stars instead of cowering beneath them. The young Kirenti was quiet for a moment. They are very strange. Yes, Vel-Shaw agreed. Yes, they are. And I would not have it any other way. Somewhere on Earth, in a small room filled with military medals and old photographs, an elderly woman sat watching the stars. Admiral Chun had retired years ago, but she still kept watch. Still wondered if the next threat would come. Still worried about the species she had helped save. Her granddaughter came in with tea. Still watching, grandmother? Always, Chun said. The galaxy is big. There's always another threat. Another challenge. And if something comes? Another enemy? Chun smiled, the same fierce smile she had worn during the war. Then we'll do what humans do best. We'll stand up. We'll fight. And we'll win. Because that's what we are. We're the species that doesn't quit. We're humanity. She raised her teacup to the stars. And we're just getting started.